Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. Get ready to be inspired and motivated to live a high-impact life. Now, here's Rick.
Welcome to another episode of the Point of Impact podcast. I'm Rick McDaniel. Thanks for joining us today. And as I said the last couple weeks, I've been using this month to do some just one-off episodes, individual episodes, and then we'll get back to a theme in our new season. And today I want to talk about succeeding in your work and ways to do that, some just absolutely tried and true ways to do that for sure. Before we do that, just want to jump in again and just say we always value ratings, reviews that can tell other people about this podcast. If you would do that, that would be greatly appreciated. I would also say for those of you who've read my book or have my book, this is Living Daily Inspiration to Live Your Faith. Again, ratings and reviews are also super helpful. And so if you can do that, we'd appreciate it on Amazon or Goodreads. It would be greatly appreciated if you would take advantage of that. And by the way, there is a special discount going on right now through Goodreads. The discount code is READS, READS 25, all caps, READS 25. Go on to Amazon and put in READS 25. You get 25% off the book. So beautiful hardcover book for $13 and change. What a deal. So it'll help you so much. I just hear from people time and time again. They love the stories. They're so encouraging. They love to start their day with some inspiration and motivation. And I just want to get this book in as many people's hands as possible because I just think it's a great way to start your day. And one reading each day take you about 3 minutes to read. And man, you're on your way. So take advantage. By all means, take advantage of that. You can get it for 25% off on Amazon. This is Living Daily Inspiration to Live Your Faith. And then just continue to have other material. RickMcDaniel.com is a great place to go to see all the things that are offered. But if you have the Bible app, the YouVersion, 500 million downloads, there are now 3 reading plans of mine that are on there, Setback to Comeback, the new one, Best Life, and This is Living based on the book. So those are all available to you and more to come for free on the Pray app or pray.com. Daily Devotions with Rick McDaniel. You can tune in there, and Monday through Friday you can listen live on 2:30 on Pray Radio, or you can listen on demand. There are now, well over 150 different devotions that you could listen to. So, man, there's a lot of content there that you can access. So, also the meditative prayer that I did, that's beautifully done. With the graphics and the music and walking you through if you have anxiety or worry and you just really need some words of encouragement and guided prayer, that is available as well on the Pray app. And I just encourage you to watch that, listen to that. You can watch it like Pray TV and just watch it. It's very peaceful. I think it'll do you a world of good. So I'd highly encourage you to take advantage of that as well. So those are the resources that are out there for you. And by the way, if you want to get delivered to your email each and every week, a new devotion every Tuesday morning, 5 a.m. Eastern Time, a new devotion comes out. Just go to rickmcdaniel.com and fill out in the contact form, section, sign up for the devotions. You get a free devotion every Tuesday morning delivered right to you. That'll encourage you and bless you. So I would definitely say go and do that at rickmcdaniel.com and take advantage of that. And just somebody asked me the other day, so I might as well throw this in. They said, will you go and speak? I said, sure, of course I will. That's a big part of my life is being a speaker. I was a speaker more well-known than I was as a writer initially. And so, there's, again, on rickmcdaniel.com, you fill out a contact form and ask me to come speak. Be happy to do that for you. So business, church, conferences, all those sports, I've done all that stuff, those sorts of things. And that's of interest to you. All right, let's just jump in here because 10 ways to succeed at work. So here's what happened. I don't even remember now where I saw this on social media, but a guy I've never heard of named Zane Khan, and he had these ways to accelerate your career. And I was just reading them, and I'm thinking, gosh, this guy's been reading my mail. These are all things that I've talked about or written about, or both, through the years. And I thought, you know what, this is some good stuff. So I should do an episode on this. I do want to give him credit in terms of the concept. A lot of the material is examples, and those sorts of things are obviously mine, but he's got to give Zane Khan his credit for the content. Good stuff here. So 10 ways, I'm going to call it 10 ways to succeed in your work. Number one, communication. I mean, communication is my life, written and spoken, so I'm a big believer in it. But I'm telling you, I have an advanced degree in it as well, so it's my thing. And the communication, of course, is both the speaking and the listening, and there's so much that goes into that. So being clear in your communication, repeating yourself, which you may not want to do, but I'm telling you, just take it from a guy who started a number of different organizations over the years. So I know what it's like to start stuff from scratch. I know what it's like to grow something and deal with growth challenges. And you can never communicate enough. Saying something again, or maybe just a slightly different way with the same point, goes a long ways. Being able to listen, and the key here is to be an active listener. So that means that your body language is open. Your arms aren't closed, and you're not sitting back. You're giving good eye contact. You're leaning slightly forward. You have an open body language that says, "Hey, I'm interested in what you're saying. I'm interested, and I want to hear what you have to say." Listening, and just not interrupting. One of the great, dangers of communication is interruption. Interruption just breaks the flow. So just be a good listener and be a good communicator. Be clear, be consistent in your communication, and be repetitive. And if you do those things, you're going to be, it's number one for a reason. Let's just say that. Number two, positive attitude. I mean, it's just attitude is everything. I mean, attitude affects your altitude. I mean, here we go. I've got a million of them for you. Again, something I've been speaking and writing on for years. And what is it? What are we talking about in the workplace? Well, we're talking about not being a complainer, trying to find the good instead of immediately going to the negative. Anybody can go negative. Anybody can point out what's wrong. That does nothing. To find the good in a situation, to look for the positive, to not be a complainer, to not be constantly critical. Now that takes work. But it can be done. And even when you give criticism, you start out with praise before you get to the criticism. It'll really go a long way. Speaking well of other people, not gossiping, talking behind people's back. I mean, it's just such a terrible thing to do. It breaks down the team. It just affects communication. It just puts a damper on the whole work environment. It's just not something that you want to be involved in. You don't want to be known as a gossiper and a complainer. That is absolutely for certain. The third way is relationship building. And here, the classic adding value, like look to add value before you ask people to do something for you. What can you do for them? Helping others, helping people. When people see you coming, they don't see you like, here comes the ask, Rick wants something, but rather being someone that is there to add value, to assist them, to help them. That's how you build relationships. People want to know that you care about them. And so You know the classic phrase, right? People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's it, man. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And I had to learn that lesson the hard way early in my career. So take it from me. I thought, gosh, people, I'm smart and I know stuff. So, big deal. People want to know you care. They're glad that you're smart and you know stuff, and there'll come a time when they'll really appreciate that. But in the beginning, it's got to be about caring. And I would also just, add to that, looking for commonality, common interests. You build relationships because you have things in common. So you seek those things out. Goes back to communication again. You'll never regret building relationships. You can never have too many friends. And believe me, there'll be times in your life you'll be so happy that you have those friends. So relationship building for sure. Fourth way, emotional intelligence. And I've, again, talked about this, written about this in my book, You Got Style. I talk quite a bit about this, which, by the way, would be a great book for you to get. I talk about my new book, This Is Living, but a book I wrote called You Got Style, learning about your styles, your thinking style, your work style, your parenting style. There's a lot there that really your decision style. It's helped a lot of people in the workplace. Emotional intelligence, just dealing with your emotions and being able to not act impulsively, not just go off and lose your temper and start throwing around profanities. That doesn't work. I don't think it ever worked, but man, today it's just not the way to go. Just be able to take a step back and really try to understand why you're upset. And again, in terms of understanding others and their style and your style, understand what's going on, the consequences of what will happen when actions are taken. And again, on my chapter on leadership styles, and just by the way, this is worth mentioning because I just saw this. The episode on leadership styles, just comes right out of my You Got Style book, is now the number one most listened to episode of all time. And for a long time, it was the episode on advice from super successful people. That was always number one. And now that has overtaken it. So that tells you something. And the leadership styles, the entire chapter is about understanding emotional intelligence and the different styles and the emotional intelligence of each style. So being able to just really realize on your own style, understand yourself, and be able to know the consequences of actions that will be taken, and proceed in that way, knowing what you're doing instead of just flying off the handle, so to speak. Emotional intelligence, they talk about EQ is more important now than IQ, and people skills are enormously significant today. Your people skills will get you very far in life, and certainly in work. Okay, fifth way to succeed in your work is time management. Man, huge. One day I'm going to write a book called The Time of Your Life, all about the value of time, how to use time well, understanding the seasons in life, and all those sorts of things. But here's what I can say is, you've got to have a schedule, and it is not about prioritizing your schedule. By the way, one of my famous phrases, it's scheduling your priorities. You don't look at your schedule and prioritize it. You look at your schedule and you schedule in your priorities, and everything else goes around it. You got to learn how to delegate, not abdicate, by the way. Another great leadership lesson I've done many times, difference between delegation and abdication. A lot of people think they delegate, they abdicate. It's just like they give it and walk away. You have a loop so that it comes back around. You're not just dumping something and leaving. You're giving it to people so that they can develop and grow their leadership, but there's a loop of accountability that goes into that. You have to be able to practice the two big words in life, yes and no. There's times to say yes, there's times to say no. That's just part of what it means. You can't do everything. What it means to develop a real time management ethos in your life, to be able to understand, I am going to manage my time well. And you cannot say yes to everything and manage your time well. You have to, again, go where your priorities are. And that's where the bulk of your focus should be. The role of systems in this is enormously important. I've taught so many staff members, people I've hired through the years, how to create systems and watch them. I had a guy one time who just could not get all his work done. And when we got done establishing all those systems, it was just amazing. Things went far better, far more smoothly, and he was working less hours. And that is about creating systems. So all these things go into time management. These are such big subjects. Every one of these. Again, I got a whole chapter on emotional intelligence. Communication. My goodness, I wrote an entire book on that way back in the day. And attitude, again, is another thing that these are giant concepts. So just giving you a few nuggets here. But man, this is where it's at. How about this one? Teamwork. I started my life in sports, 15 years, competitive athletics, and man, the lessons I learned have been such a blessing to me my entire life. And so, just what does it mean to be a good teammate? What does it mean to be on a team? And realize that it takes everybody's contribution to make it happen, to make it work. I remember my, football is kind of my game, but I was, believe it or not, also a tennis player. And when I was young, I was ranked, and then I got to high school, and I never been on a tennis team before. Tennis was an individual sport. Then then you find out, hey, I'm on a team, and I'll never forget. I got thrown in as a freshman into a super important match, and I lost. And my match was the deciding match that lost us lost. In other words, me losing meant we lost as a team. I'd never experienced that before in the sport of tennis. And man, it was just like a lifelong lesson. Like, wow, even this individual sport, there's a team concept. And, just being able to celebrate other people's victories and wins and not just your own, avoiding taking all the credit, because, it's just impossible to, again, in a sport like football, running back scores the touchdowns. That's me. That's both my boys play college ball, both running backs. That's what everybody sees. But if the linemen don't do their job, that's not going to happen. If the right call is not made, the right play isn't run, a lot of things have to line up, and then you got to do your part, and then everybody wins. And so just praising people and just thanking them for being part of the team and doing their job to make sure that the team is successful all the way around. And I just think it's marvelous to be on a team. That's the greatest. That's really the greatest thing that you can be a part of, is doing something together that you could never do by yourself, and having an impact far bigger than you could ever possibly have individually. I mean, that's really when you're making a difference with your life. So teamwork is enormously important if you are going to succeed in your work. All right, persuasion, being a persuasive person. This is super important. You've got to be able to persuade people. And I'm not just talking about sales here. Whatever work you are in, you are going to have to persuade people that, this is the way to go. This is the path to take. This is the direction that we should follow. And so you really have to be able to, first of all, really kind of understand, what do people care about? Like what what matters to them so that you can persuade them that this matters. You need to know what matters to them, not just what matters to you. So many people miss it right here. You know, they give a compelling case for why we should do this, and it's based on their rationale and their understanding and their desires, and they don't understand what other people care about. And then, you know, this is a big part of my life these days, so it's near and dear to my heart, but the stories, you know, creating stories, sharing stories that resonate with them. And, you know, this is what I do now with all these devotions is there's just story after story after story, and all these stories, you know, they have the potential to resonate with people. And then, you know, how you communicate them is enormously important. And that, that involves brevity in the sense that, you know, no one wants to listen to something that goes on and on and on and on. So that's important to understand. And then, you know, there has got to be an appropriate amount of emotion. And this actually makes me think of something I should have said earlier, but I've been doing now the last few weeks, and this will be happening, these Monday motivation videos, 2-minute motivation. You can get them on my Twitter at Rick McDaniel, or on my Facebook, or Instagram, Rick McDaniel _official, any of those places. I'm posting them now. And if you watch these videos, you'll see they're brief, they're only 2 minutes, and they have a story, and there's an appropriate amount of emotion. You know, there's passion behind it. So the passion is really important, that you have the passion. And you put that all together, and then, you know, you're a pretty persuasive person. And, you know, if you have a vision of what you want done, or, you know, to succeed, you know, you're going to have to persuade people that this is the way to go and these ideas work, and it's really, really important. Now, here's another side of it: negotiation. Negotiation. I mean, this is part of life. And again, this is not just like for people that are trying to sell stuff. I mean, it's just really important to understand that many things in life, in the workplace, and by the way, in marriage too, and I've been married for a while, coming up on anniversary here in just a few days just a few days from now. And marriage is about compromise. It's about negotiating, you know, who's going to get what, and what are we going to do, and where are we going to go, and what are we going to get, and so of course it involves listening. You know, you've got to be a listener. Got to understand, you know, what the other person wants, what the other side wants, what the other group wants, however you want to say it. So that's a part of it. And then, you know, the other part is being able to know what you're worth, you know, understand the value that you bring to the table, and don't sell yourself short in any way, shape, or form. That's no good. This isn't about being arrogant. This is just about knowing, you know, this is what I know, this is who I am, this is what I'm good at, this is what I bring, this is my knowledge, experience, so forth and so on, and then proposing something, you know, that really is mutually beneficial. I mean, that's kind of the whole game, the whole idea of the game, right? What can we propose that both sides can say, yeah, I can get behind this. This is good for you, good for me. Or again, it may be something where this is going to be more beneficial for you this time, but next time it is going to be more beneficial for you. You know, we're going to work in such a way that both sides see a benefit coming their way. And this negotiation stuff, man, I'm telling you, it's really, really, really important. All right, here's another way to succeed in your work, and that is empathy. This is the classic putting yourself in another person's shoes. This is another one of my tried and true statements that anyone who's ever worked for me or been under my leadership would have heard more than once. You know, what does it mean to put yourself in other people's shoes? And man, I tell you, we need it so bad right now in this country of ours. the kind of division and the kind of polarization. What does it mean to just try to understand, where somebody else is coming from, trying to see it through their perspective? Very, very, very valuable. Of course, you have to actually care, that's empathy, you've got to care enough. But caring is not just all there is to it. It's just really saying, okay, I want to try to get into your world and try to understand you and understand where you're coming from. And so this is being able to acknowledge people and their feelings, their perspectives, how they got to where they are, and really being generous with your time. It takes time to be empathetic. It takes your attention, your focus, and you've got to be willing to offer those to other people. But of course, there's great value in it. It just people when they know that you're really a supportive person and that you're trying to understand and that you have a genuine interest in their well-being. I mean, that goes a long, 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 long way. And if you just won't be successful without a proper degree of empathy. All right, here's the final one: conflict resolution. Yeah, this is what happens. People have conflicts. People have disagreements. This is part of life. If I could go back, and this is, succeeding at work, but if I could just use the marriage analogy, just because a lot of these will work for you, by the way. You just think about different gender, different background, different personality. You see all the differences there. And so, whenever there's that many differences, now you get into the workplace and, there's all these differences that exist. And so it's just set up for potential conflict. So first thing is, how can you avoid unnecessary conflict? I mean, that's the thing that you have to ask yourself. What can I do to avoid this? To not create a situation where there's perpetual conflict. It should really just be occasional. It certainly can never be never, but, just avoiding unnecessary arguments and accusations. Just really think long and hard. Is this worth it? And I've asked myself that so many times. You get an email from someone and you just, don't fire off a response. Just sit for it. I just got one just the other day, and it's like, I'm just do what I always do. I'm just going to sit on this and not just react out of emotion or frustration, but just, going to be a mature adult, What's maturity? Delaying gratification, handling frustration. There's your most basic, simple definition. You're a mature person, you'll be able to delay gratification, you'll be able to handle frustration. And then you want to just focus more on solutions than problems. Again, anyone can point out the problems. Don't bring me your problems. Bring me the solution to the problem. Let's just figure out how we can solve this. Not let's all spend all our time talking about the fact that this exists. This is a problem, but what can we do to solve it? Work on the resolution side. Very, very important. And then being able to just, say you're sorry when you're sorry, apologize. If it's your fault, then, just own it. Just own it and then move on from it. People are, by and large, certainly mentally healthy people, they'll accept an apology. They'll take it. They'll grant forgiveness, but, you got to be able to ask for it. So being able to own up to what's happened and say you're sorry, and then we all make mistakes, we all mess up, and then being able to move on from there. So there you go. Those are golden principles, really. And again, you'll be successful in life with practicing these, but particularly in your work, in your career. But again, this will help you in your family and your marriage, and help you in a lot of other ways as well. If you can work on these, and just as you've listened today, just think about maybe one of them that maybe you need some work on, and just focus on that. Or maybe listen again to that particular part and say, man, this is where I need to just focus a little bit more on being a little bit better in one of these areas, and see if that doesn't turn out to really help you in your career, in your work. I think it will. Have a great week.
You've been listening to the Point of Impact podcast with Rick McDaniel. Thanks for tuning in, and we look forward to you joining us for our next episode.